Well, can you believe it? We're finally at the end of the semester. And so we're looking at the last discussion. Now, there's going to be some students in this class that don't have to do the discussion. Why? Well, the lowest discussion grade is dropped. And so what I usually do in the grade book, you'll see that a 0 has been recorded in the last discussion. So that gives you the idea where you stand in the class for the discussion. And so you should probably be good to go. But if not, you're still allowed to do it. Let's look at the last discussion, losing faith in government. And that has to deal with the United States government. And the question reads, Vietnam, Watergate, and the Americans held hostage in Iran would lead to Americans losing their faith in government by 1980. Assess the validity of the statement. So it's asking you 3 categories. What does that mean? You have to write 3 paragraphs for each category. Now, this is something you've learned ever since probably the 3rd grade. How do I know that? My wife teaches 3rd grade and has taught her students, I know it's been taught to all students, that when you have a new idea, you have a new paragraph. So let's first look at Vietnam. What happened in Vietnam? Well, going back, you might remember the Gulf of Tonkin resolution that got us heavily involved in Vietnam. And then came the Pentagon Papers during Nixon's administration. And what the Pentagon Papers revealed, this is very important, is that the Gulf of Tonkin was all a lie to get us heavily involved in Vietnam. So it showed that the previous president of the United States, Johnson, lied. And that lie led to eventually 58,000 Americans being killed in the war in Vietnam. The next one is Watergate. This has to deal with Nixon. Now, Nixon was running for re-election in 1972 and was very paranoid due to losing in 1960 and just squeaking by in 1968. Now, honestly, he had nothing to worry about because the candidate he was going against, George McGovern, was so far left for American people, even in 1972, there's no way a majority are going to vote for him. That's why he won in a landslide and won 49 states. It was a huge Republican landslide for Richard Nixon. But what Watergate revealed is that his committee to re-elect the president, Creep, how funny is that, broke into the Democratic headquarters at Watergate to try to find out what their strategies were in the 1972 election. Here's what Nixon's sin is, and this is what happens to the sin with a lot of politicians. It's not the particularly possible crime that is committed that gets you in trouble, is to cover up. And what we would learn from the Nixon tapes is that when Nixon first hears what happened at Watergate, and of course this was during the election of 1972, he said, well, who was the a-hole that authorized that? So right then and there, we know he knew about it, but he covered it up. And he went way overboard of covering up. And other things that would also reveal during the process of the hearings in the United States Senate on Watergate is Nixon also had an enemies list as well. And he was trying to shut down people who disagreed with him as well and sicking the government on them. So it was another form of censorship. So that brings a lot of distrust.